everyone, it's Deja, and today we are making this super cute owl basket, one of my most favorite and popular patterns. I'm going to give you materials in just a sec, but I wanted to let you know, stick around throughout the video. I'm going to be giving tips and tricks that aren't in the actual pattern, so that way your basket will look its best. And to do that, to get started, we are going to need quite a bit of yarn. We are using 4 strands at a time for the main body, and the reason for that is to make it extremely stiff so that it can stand up on its own. And I love Cascade Yarn's ecological wool. It is a very structured yarn that holds up really well. It is not a superwash though, so it will felt, so just be careful of that. But it has a ton of yardage. It has 478 yards per hank. So we're going to need 2 of those because we're using 4 strands at a time. But you can substitute. This is a bulky weight. I've told people that you can substitute with super bulky and reduce your number of strands. So if 4 strands is just kind of difficult for you to work with, use a super bulky and 2 strands. And then when we do the eyes, you'll drop down to 1 strand because on the eyes we use 2 strands of the wool. But when you are winding this, if you're using the exact same yarn because it comes in a hank, when you're winding it, make sure it is a center pull ball because we're going to use both of these. So wind them both at the same time because you're going to use the inside and the outside of each cake to get your 4 strands. So make sure that you are creating those as center pull to make your life easier and that you don't have to go rewind it. If you are allergic to wool, you can still get stiff yarn. There are certain types of acrylic that give you a nice stiff stitch, as well as other types of yarn. Just make sure that it's kind of when you touch it, it's not that soft. Usually the soft yarns are the ones that are more drapey and not as structured, and so your basket may not stand on its own. So if you're looking for that kind of stand-up basket without anything in it, you'll want something with structure. With this, we are going to use a semi-large hook, but with 4 strands, it's not gonna seem that large, but this is a 10mm hook. You'll notice in the pattern I say 10 millimeters. I do not name the letter, and you'll see if you can see that in the camera that it is stating it is an N/P. So depending on the vendor, it will be a different letter. So I just stick with the 10mm, so that's what you look for. So this basket is almost like amigurumi. You want your stitches as tight as possible. So if you're moving up to a super bulky, if you're getting kind of loose stitches with this 10mm hook, drop it down a size, go to a 9mm because you want very tight stitches for that structured look. I will link all of this in the description below, as well as on the website where you can pull up the free pattern so that you can follow along. But let's go ahead and get started. Okay, I've got my yarn wound into cakes, and I think you can see with just my hands how big this yarn really is. It is a huge cake. I have 2 to be able to work 4 strands at once. Like I said previously, we're going to use the center strand and the outside strand at the same time on both for all 4 strands together. Okay, I've got my 4 strands pulled out for my 2 cakes. I've got a little bit of slack as well. It's not too difficult to unwind this. You're just gonna grab both and pull at the same time, and one will roll around from the outside and one from the inside. So it's not too difficult to get your slack. But we are going to begin with the magic adjustable loop. So to do that, we're going to make our loop. So we're just going to cross over, so the working tail over the actual tail, sorry, working yarn over the tail, and we're going to pull up a loop, and we're going to start working around inside of this loop to be able to close it tight when we finish. We are going to go straight into half double crochets. We're not even going to do a chain. So in order to do that, we're going to yarn over. We're going to insert our hook through the loop. We're going to grab all 4 strands always and pull up a loop. And with the 3 loops on our hook, we're going to yarn over and pull through all 3. Now, a tip with working 4 strands, make sure that you are pointing your hook down when you pull through. Point it towards your stitch, and that will get you through all of your loops at once. So that will keep you from kind of only grabbing 1 or 2 loops. This hook size, while it makes pretty tight stitches, it still is not super tight where it's going to give you hand fatigue or it's going to be an issue catching all 4 loops on your hook. So we are going to do 6 more of those half double crochets for a total of 8 inside of our loop. As you go, if your tail kind of gets a little bit lost, you can pull on that a little bit to tighten up the circle a little more. You'll have plenty of room, so don't worry, and you can always make it wider again if you need to. To count your stitches, we're looking at these V's here up on the top. So far I've made 1, 2, 3. So if you're not sure how to count those, count that V up at the top. I'm finishing up my last half double crochet, and now I'm ready to close my magic adjustable loop. So I'm going to grab those tails and yank on that to close it down. Now I am working the basket in spirals, so there are no seams. So we are using a stitch marker. I'll link to this one. It's a nice big one that can fit onto these big stitches, but we'll begin row 2 now. So for row 2, we're going to be doing 2 half double crochets in every stitch around. If you're new and you're kind of like, where do I begin working? Remember, use those V's and work backwards. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So even though this kind of looks like a V, that is not a stitch. This is the beginning of our stitch. And it's going to be a little awkward on this first join because we're not going to slip stitch. We are just going to start working our next stitch in. So we're going to yarn over, put our hook through those 2 top V's, and do our half double crochet. Then, before I forget, I'm placing my stitch marker to mark the beginning of my round. And then we're going to do another half double crochet in that same stitch. So you'll see if you kind of pull on it, it's going to open that stitch up for you to find it easily. If you're using dark yarn and you're new, don't. Go to light yarn until you get used to stitches because it will be a lot more difficult to see. So again, we're going to do 2 half double crochets in our next stitch. And then we're going to repeat that 6 more times all the way around. And you'll see like sometimes my slack gets kind of bunched up. Just kind of pretend it's hair and just kind of straighten it out for you to keep going. So we will meet up at the end of this round after doing 2 half doubles in each stitch. Okay, I'm at my last stitch, my 16th stitch of round 2, and you'll see that my hole is kind of opened up for the magic adjustable loop. Don't worry about it. You can just let it hang. You don't need to keep closing it down. Once you weave in the ends at the end, you can tighten that down and close that hole. So just something so you don't have to torture yourself by keep on closing that down. Or you can close it down and weave in the ends right now if you'd like. But we're going to move on to round 3. So for round 3, we're going to continue increasing. So I'm going to take off my stitch marker that I'm caught on a little bit. There we go. And then we're going to start off with 2 half double crochets in that first stitch again. Always remember to place that stitch marker after that first stitch so you don't forget. I really like these because they just kind of slide right on. You don't have to sit there and click locks or anything like that. So I will link that. Again, we're going to do another half double in that same stitch. And then our pattern for this round is we're going to place 1 half double crochet in between each increase. So we're going to do 2 half double crochets, 1 half double crochet, and then repeat that. So again, we're going to yarn over, insert in the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3, yarn over, insert back into that stitch, pull up that loop, pull through all 3. Then we're going to do 1 single half double in the next stitch, and pull through all 3. So we're going to continue that around for a total, you'll see me trying to get my slack, for a total of, what do we end up with? With 24 stitches. So keep on going around and we'll meet up at the end of round 3. And I am on my last half double crochet here. So now we have 24 stitches for round 3. We are moving on to round 4 and we are still increasing. We're going to be increasing for a bit. So this time we're going to place 2 half double crochets in between each increase. So we're going to take off our stitch marker. We're going to do our first half double and place it back. Don't forget. Then we're going to do another half double in that same stitch, just like all the beginning of our rounds. And then we're going to do 1 half double crochet in the next stitch, and then 1 half double crochet in the stitch after. So again, for round 4, we're going to do 2 in one stitch, and then 1 in the next stitch, and another one in the next stitch. So a total of 4 stitches, and then we'll start increasing again. So we're going to do 2 in the next stitch. Pull my tails apart here. Another one in that same stitch, and then 1 in my next stitch, and 1 in the stitch after. So we're doing always multiples of 8. There's 8 sections basically of each round. So as we're increasing 8 stitches every single round. We're spreading out those increases to keep it circular by placing evenly spaced extra stitches in between. So it's kind of the little geometry behind that. But we're going to continue doing those 4 repeat stitches of 2 half doubles, single, and loop. So you'll see sometimes you get a little wrapped up. Take your time keeping your strands nice and straight. So we had, let's see, we had 2 there. So we have 1, 2, and then 1, and 1 more. So I'm going to keep doing that all the way around till we have 32 stitches. Okay, here we are on our last stitch of round 4. Now we have 32 stitches total, and we're just going to keep on going to round 5 where we're going to increase some more. Again, we're going to increase 8 stitches. So to begin, we're going to do 2 half double crochets in the same stitch. Place your stitch marker. And then, as kind of what we've done before, we did 1 stitch in between, and then we did 2 stitches in between. Now we're going to do 3 stitches in between. So we're going to do 1 half double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So that will be our pattern all the way around. We're going to do 2 half double crochets in the first stitch, and then we're going to do 1 half double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So we're going to do that 8 times around for a total of 40 stitches. So keep on going and we'll meet up at the end of round 5. Okay, here is the end of row 5. We are up to 40 stitches around. We're only gonna increase a couple more, but we're gonna keep increasing to get a nice big basket. So for round 6, we're going to be doing 6 stitches of a repeat again. So we're going to be doing 2 half doubles in the first stitch. And then we're kind of repeating that pattern we've been going. We did 1, 2, and 3 in between. Now we're doing 4 in between. So 1 half double crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. You may ask, why can't I just do all my increases at once, right in a row? Why can't I just do 8? If you do that, you're going to have a big, crazy looking, not circular item. So you have to spread them out to keep them circular. Otherwise, you're not going to have a basket. You're going to have a strange creation. So we have 1, 2 together, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 in their own stitches. And that is the pattern all the way around for a total of 48 stitches. So keep on going around for round 6 just like that, and we will come back for round 7 where I think we finish increasing. Nope, we still have one more. 2 more, I think 2 more to increase, and then we'll be done increasing. So I'll meet you at the end of round 6. Okay, last stitch of round 6. 48 stitches in, and our base is getting nice and big. We're going to make it bigger. So we are going to now do 7 stitches of a pattern. So 2 half doubles in the first stitch for round 7, and then 5 half doubles, 1 in each of the next 5 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, stuck here, need more slack, caught up on everything. How many did I say? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, and 5. I am trying to make these stitches as tight as possible. So as you work, keep really good tension. The tighter you make these stitches, the more stiff the basket will be and will stand up on its own. So that way you don't have to fill it completely full if you don't want to, or just have it as decor. So the tighter you make these stitches, it's just like kind of amigurumi. You're making the stitches as tight as possible. So again, I just did 2 half double crochets, and I'm going to do 1 half double crochet in each of the next 5 stitches. So again, 8 times around, and then after that round, we will have 56 stitches. And then we're only going to increase one more time after that, and then we're going to start making the whole body of the owl. So keep on going, and I'll meet you at the end of this round. Okay, last stitch of round 7. We've got 56 stitches, and now we are ready for our final round of increasing. So we're doing 8 stitch pattern 8 times for 64 stitches. So we're doing 2 half doubles in that first stitch. Always remember the stitch marker. And then 1 half double crochet in each of the next 6 stitches. So once we finish this round, we are going to start making the body of the basket. So we'll just be crocheting half doubles forever for a bit. And then we'll shape the basket a bit to give it more of an owl kind of body look to it. So we'll get into that as soon as we finish this round. But let's see, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 5 and 6. Again, 2 half doubles in your next stitch. And then 1 half double in each of your next 6 stitches. And keep on going. You'll do that 6 more times after this grouping, and then you will have 64 stitches at the end of round 8, and then we will start building our basket. Okay, I just finished round 8, and you can see the bottom of the basket is huge. That's what we want. Now we are going to work the body of the owl basket until round 17. So we are going to go rounds 9 through 17, just half double crocheting around and around. So do not forget your stitch marker, or you might get lost and you don't want to have to pull back out to your increases to figure out where you are. Not a huge deal, you know, you can always kind of start from where you started and work your way out to find it, but it's much easier just to keep track. So we are just doing half double crochets around and around in every single stitch, one in every stitch, for 64 stitches each round. And then when we get to the end of round 17, we are going to do a little shaping and do a little bit more basket, and then we'll be making eyes. So go ahead and go watch some TV and make all these rounds, and I'll see you at round 18. Here we are at our last stitch of round 17. So now we are ready to start shaping our basket. So we should have a nice big basket already, and you can see with the tight stitches that it's standing up on its own. So next we're just going to shape it just slightly to give it a little bit more of kind of like an owl look, if you know owl has a look. So we're going to decrease 8 stitches around. So kind of what we did increasing, we're going to do the opposite, and we're going to decrease evenly all the way around. So to do that, we're going to start with our decreases first. So we're going to yarn over, and we're going to do a HDC2 together. So we're going to do technically 2 half double crochets, but in one to decrease these 2 stitches. So we start that by yarning over, inserting into our first stitch of our round. Then we'll have 3 loops on our hook. Then we're going to yarn over again and insert to the next stitch and pull up a loop. And now we have 5 loops on our hook. That's why I like long shafts. You'll see if you go download the pattern, I'll talk about why I like long shafts on bigger hooks, because a lot of yarn, you need a lot of room. So next we're going to yarn over, and we're going to pull through all those. So remember, to get through the stitches easy, point straight down and pull through all of those stitches. Kind of wiggle if you need to. Don't forget to place your stitch marker. And then we're going to just half double crochet in the next 6 stitches. So here's where that last stitch was worked. Now we're going to go into the next one, and we're going to repeat that pattern 8 times all the way around. So we're going to HDC 2 together, and then half double crochet in the next 6 stitches, and that is going to reduce our round 18 that we are on by 8 stitches, giving us a total of 56 stitches again. Let's see how many we've got here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I should have pulled more slack. I'm trying to make it through these 6 without having to pull. I'm gonna need to pull. Hold on 1 second, guys. Let me pull some more slack real quick. So we had our HDC2 together, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're just going to repeat that around again. We're going to yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, go into the next stitch and pull up a loop, and then yarn over and point down and get through all 5 stitches nice and easy. So keep on going around with your HDC2 together, and then HDC in the next 6 stitches, and we'll meet up for round 19, where we are going to do a little bit more shaping. Here I am at the last stitch of round 18, and we're ready to do one more round of decreasing, and that's going to bring us to 48 total stitches. So we're going to start off again with a HDC2 together. So yarn over, insert in your first stitch, yarn over, insert in your next stitch, yarn over and pull through all 5, And then how we did 6 stitches in between each decrease, we are going to now do 5 stitches in between. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so again, for this round, we're going to do kind of a 6-stitch repeat, but we're going to do an HDC2 together, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 half double crochets after that. So again, this will bring us to 48 stitches, and then that will be the end of the decreasing, but we're going to increase back up one more row after this before we just kind of continue on. So come back around, finish row 19, and we'll do row 20 next. And now we're moving on to round 20. So we are going to increase back up to 56 stitches. So this will just give it a little bit of a innie and an outie. So we're gonna do 2 half double crochets in that first stitch. And this should be a pretty easy one to remember because we kind of just did it. We're going to do 2 half double crochets in one stitch. So last time we did 2 half double crochets into 2 stitches to turn it into 1. So then we're going to do 5 more half double crochets. So just like what we did the round before, except we're increasing instead of decreasing. So we're going to do 2 half doubles in that first stitch, and then 5 more, 1 in each of the next 5 stitches. We're going to do that 8 times, so we're going to bring our total back up to 56 again. So again, 2 half double crochets in the next stitch, and then 1 half double crochet in each of the 5 stitches after that. So keep on going. After that, it's going to just be going around, but we'll get back together at the end of this round just to go over it real quick. Okay, last stitch, and now we are ready to just do a few more rounds of normal half double crochet. So we just finished round 20. We're going to go on to round 21, which is just half double crochet in every stitch around, as well as the rest of the basket, except for the very last 2 stitches, just to finish it off. So we're going to work rounds 21 through 27 just half double crocheting around, and then I'll come back at the very end to show you how we're going to fasten off the basket, and then we'll move on to the owl eyes. Okay, I'm at the end of round 26, and now we just need 2 more stitches to finish off this basket. The reason why we're doing these stitches is because if we just fasten off, we're going to have this big offset because we were working in spirals. So we're going to do 2 stitches to bring that down. So the next stitch, we're going to single crochet. So just insert your hook, yarn over and pull through. And then the stitch after, we're going to slip stitch. So insert, pull through, and then pull through on your hook. So that's going to bring the stitches more in line with the rest of the project. And then after that, we're going to fasten off. I'm not going to do another like an extra chain fasten off. I'm just going to pull this long so that I can get a tail to weave in and cut it. And then that way also, when I weave in, I'm going to bring it down even more. So I'm going to weave it down this way. You'll need a pretty large needle for weaving in. This is a really nice large eye for very bulky yarn. So this will work perfectly to get all 4 of these strands at the same time. But I'm going to kind of bring it through. So I'll mimic this Y when I come through, and I'm just going to bring it through an extra stitch down there. So that way it's going to pull through and give it just, not so much of a bulky look as you work through and weave in your ends. So just kind of go back and forth with your needle to weave in all of your ends. The more you go back and forth, the better it locks in. If you just kind of run it straight, if I get in the camera, if you just run it straight, it's more likely to pull out. So it's much more secure when you go up and down and all around instead of just in a straight line. So I'll continue to do that. I'll weave in my end down there in the middle and tighten the hole, and then we'll move on to the eyes, which are kind of the most important part of the basket because that's what gives it personality. Okay, so for both eyes, the first 3 rounds are the same. It's the 4th round where we actually create kind of little flares that are going to be different for each eye, so that way they're both facing the right side, because if I just did 2 of the exact same eyes, I would have to flip one, which would make it look kind of strange, but I'll show you how that looks on when we finish one of the eyes. But to begin, we're going to do 6 single crochets with 2 strands only. So now I've just kind of, I'm still working, I'm using my 2 cakes, but I'm using just the center pull portion of it now, just so that I'm not pulling from inside and outside the whole time again. And you'll see how much yarn I have left over. So I've had people in the past that say that they don't have enough of the eco wool. They're not making their stitches tight enough. So if you're making your stitches tight enough, you will have plenty of wool left over. So just a little note there. So to begin, we're going to do 6 single crochets into a magic adjustable loop. So we have our tail, we're going to flip our yarn over to make a loop. We're going to insert through that loop and pull up a loop. And then we're going to do 1 chain just to anchor it in there. And then we're going to do 6 single crochets into this loop. So we're going to insert, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. You'll notice we're still using the same sized hook. We're not changing it. These stitches are going to be a lot looser than our other basket stitches. 3, 4, 5, and 6. And this is going to have a much longer tail, or a semi-long tail, so that way we can attach the eyes to the basket. So make sure that your tail's pretty long, and we're not going to crochet it into the eye. We're going to leave it loose so that we can use it for sewing. So we've got our 6 stitches. We're not joining. We're going to be working in spirals again. So our next round, we're going to do 2 single crochets in every stitch around. So we're going to place that stitch marker in the first stitch so we don't lose track. I can get through all of my strands here. Place the stitch marker. Again, if your hole starts to open up, don't worry. At the end, you can pull it closed again. But we're going to do 2 stitches in the first, 2 single crochets in the next, and 2 single crochets in each stitch around for a total of 12 single crochets. Okay, here's the last of my 12 stitches. Get caught in my stitch marker. All right, now we're moving on to round 3. We're almost done with the first eye. Okay, for round 3, we're going to switch up our stitches. So we were just doing 2 single crochets in each stitch around. Now we're going to switch to 2 double crochets in each stitch around. So we're not going to do any beginning chains or anything. We're just going to yarn over, insert our hook, pull through the first 2, pull through the second 2, and then place our stitch marker. And then we're going to do another one in the same stitch. And we're going to continue that all the way around. So we have 12 single crochets that we're working into, and we're doing 2 double crochets into each one. So we'll have 24 double crochets at the end of this round. So go ahead and work 2 double crochets in each stitch around. and then we'll come back for the final round where we'll do some other special stitches to give the owl its very distinctive eyes. Okay, here we are at the last 2 stitches. And now we're ready for round 4, the final round for the eye. So we've got kind of a little pupil and a big round around the outside. So for round 4, we're going to do a little bit more increasing before we start the flares on the eyes. So we're going to start off with 2 double crochets in the next stitch. Place, but you don't really need the stitch marker because it's the last round, so unless you want it there to be able to work backwards, if you need to remember how many stitches you've done, go ahead and place that, and that'll help you so you can count backwards if you need to, if you get distracted. So we've got 2 double crochets in the first stitch, then we're going to do 1 double crochet in the next stitch. So we're going to continue this pattern 6 times total, so 5 more times. So we've got 2 double crochets, 1 double crochet, and do 2 double crochets again, and then 1 double crochet. Do that 4 more times, and then we'll come back to create the flare. Okay, here is my last double crochet of those 6 increases. Now it's time for the eye flare. So our next stitch is going to be a treble. So to do a treble, we're going to do 2 yarn overs. We're going to insert the hook into the next stitch, pull up a loop, and then we're going to work off 2 loops at a time. So this is the next highest stitch after a double crochet. So pull off the first 2, pull off the second 2, pull off the third 2. So there's 3 loops, treble for 3. Then we're going to do a double treble in the next stitch. So that's going to be 3 yarn overs. And then we're going to insert into the next stitch, pull up that loop, and work off 2 at a time again. So I don't know why they don't call this a quabble or something, but we're going to do 4 work offs, and it's going to bring out that flare even more. Then, to make it even more flary, so our next stitch is going to be a peacoat. I don't know how to say that correctly, but what it's going to do is going to create like a little point on the end of that. So we're going to chain 3. We'll do them fairly tight. We don't want them super loopy. And then we're going to slip stitch into that first chain that we made. So it doesn't really matter which loop you go into. We're just going to slip stitch, and then that's going to give us an even more of a point over here. Then what we're going to do is we're going to chain 5. So again, make these pretty tight. Don't make them super loopy. 3, 4, and 5. And that's going to bring this back down. So that is the next stitch to bring all of our tails back down here. And then we're going to slip stitch into, sorry, wrong one, into the bottom of our double treble stitch. So the same stitch that we did our double treble in, we're going to slip stitch into that stitch. And then we're going to fasten off that. Again, you can make your tail nice and long to help sew the outside of the eye to the basket. So this one, I want to make it even longer because I want to go all the way around to secure it really good. Okay, so here is the first owl eye. So as I said before, we're going to do, and then you can kind of close that off there to make it a little smaller. What I said before, we're going to create the first same 3 rounds, and then we're going to do something different for the opposite eye flare. You could make 2 of these and just flip it, but as you can see, it looks totally different on this side. And if you like this side better, you could make, your two different eyes and then flip them to this side. But to get the same look, we got to do round 4 slightly different. So go ahead and make the beginning round 3 of the next eye, and then we'll work through the flare when we come back. Okay, I'm on the last double crochet of round 3. Now I'm ready for my flare on 4. So we're going to be working backwards because on this guy we did our flare at the end, but to get this thing going the right way, we got to start our flare at the beginning. So to do that, move this guy out of the way, we're going to first slip stitch into our next stitch. So we're kind of working backwards from the last round. Then we're going to chain 5. Again, don't make them super tight or super loose, just the size of a double treble. So we've got that. Next, we're going to do our peacoat, and I'm going to kind of block off this chain 5 because I have to do 3 more chains for the peacoat, and I don't want to get them confused. One thing I want you to do is make this first chain pretty tight, because when we go to slip stitch into it, it's going to pull out a lot. It's going to pull on this chain 5, and I want to keep the stitches that are between the double treble and the chain 5 close together. And if you make this peacoat kind of loopy, it's going to kind of pull apart. So we want to do it nice and tight. We're slip stitching, and then we get our point. So we've got pretty close stitches here. So this is what it looks like if you're too loopy. See that big gap? So we want it nice and tight. Okay, next we're going to do our double treble. I want to keep my stitches as tight as possible on the hook when I do my yarn overs, because the double treble has a tendency to kind of poof out. Like, you'll see how these loops will start getting bigger as we're working them off. But we're going to do 3 yarn overs. We're going to insert back into that same stitch, and we're going to pull everything tight before we start. So I want the hook laying right on top of the eye. Then we're going to work off 2 stitches at a time, again pulling tight, keeping the loops close together, because you can see this one's starting to get a little big. But what we can do after we finish this stitch is spread these out a little bit. We can pull these a little looser to make this one not as loopy. One other tip is you'll notice that these 2 stitches have a little bit of a gap compared to our first eye. That is because of how this was a beginning chain and this was an ending chain. So what we're going to do at the very end is just take a piece of yarn, if it bothers you, and just connect these 2 up at the top. And then that's going to put them close together just like the others. So not a big deal. That is your extra tip so that you can make your eyes look the same. So we're going to go ahead and keep working our way down the opposite way of what we did for the first eye. So the next one is just a treble. So we're going to yarn over twice and work into our next stitch and pull off 2 at a time. 1, 2, and that guy. And then we are going to do our increases that we did for round 4. So we're going to do the double crochets increasing by doing 1 double crochet. So we're going to kind of go backwards. We're going to do 1 double crochet first, and then 2 double crochets in the next stitch. So instead of starting with our increase and then doing 1 double crochet, we're going to do the reverse of that 6 times. Okay, so again, we're going to do 1 double crochet in our next stitch, and then 2 in the stitch after. So we're going to do that for a total of 6 times to finish off this increasing portion. So go ahead and do that 6 total times, then we'll come back at the end to finish off the eye. Okay, here is the last double crochet. And then to finish this off, because we can't just fasten off because then we'll have this weird jump here, we're going to slip stitch into the next stitch to bring that down and in line. Then we'll fasten off here. Again, make it nice and long so you can sew it in. And then I'm going to give you a tip about the eyes really quick. So if you're finding that your eyes are not coming out the same size as you work one and then the other, say maybe because of gauge or whatever, instead start each eye, so do the front and outside of a cake if you've got two, do round one, then round one, round two, round two, round three, round four, round four. That way you will have more closely matched your gauge because you're working the same back and forth rather than one whole eye and then the other eye. So that's a quick tip. So again, to make this eye this less gappy here, go ahead and just use a little piece of yarn and put that together, and then you'll get that nice and the same. We're going to go and attach these to the basket. One other thing, if you accidentally got some yarn that is a little floppy and your eyes are kind of like maybe droopy or anything like that, they're not standing up, because you're going to attach pretty much everything but the flare. If you're finding that it's droopy, starch it before you attach it. You can go and use some spray starch and get it nice and tight, or you can put a little piece of wire in there, whatever you want if you're finding that those are not standing up on their own. But this ecological wool is great. You can see it just stands up on its own like no problem, but I can move them and make them flop if I want to, but they do stand up great on their own. So let's go attach the eyes and put on the nose and finish our basket. Okay, we've got the basket ends all woven in, and now we're ready to attach the eyes. So go ahead and get the long round eye tail on a yarn needle. And then what we're going to do is we're not going to worry about the first eye, it's the second eye that we want to make sure we're placing the right distance apart to get the look that's in the pictures. But for the first eye, you basically want to line it up with the top of the basket, but with the eye flare up and above the basket, because that is not going to be sewn on. So depending on where you want your offset from the end of the basket, I'm just putting it in the back. You could put it, where the eye flare is, totally up to you. But we're going to use our tail and we're just going to work around the entire eye to attach it. So you can do a back stitch, a front stitch, whatever, but I'm going right underneath my stitch and around the post. So that makes it pretty indistinguishable. So you're just going to continue to do that all the way around. Make sure that you're kind of keeping everything flat so that it doesn't get bunched up as you go. And then after we finish this portion, and you're going to want to kind of go maybe not totally all the way around, because you still want to get your middle eye sewn on. So once you get it on there, a decent amount, head through with your center eye. And remember, you can pull your eye shut if it was kind of opening up. And then we're going to go kind of in and out around the eye. So just to kind of like in the same fashion that the stitch already looks, so it doesn't create any kind of different look to it. But that will secure that on there. So go ahead and attach this first eye, and then we'll be a little bit more careful with the second eye to get it right where we need it. Okay, we've got the first eye attached, and now we're going to place the second eye. So you'll see in the pattern that it says to put it 2 stitches apart. So kind of like right where the center of the eye is, you want to go 1, 2, and then place your next eye, and that'll give you a good amount in between. And then for our nose, so make sure that you're taking your time to line it up so that the eye flares are matching up, the look of it is matching up. So take your time, and then you're going to attach it the exact same way. So I'm going to do that off camera so that way I don't mess it up while I'm trying to show you. But same thing, you're gonna stitch around and stitch the center of the eye, and then we'll come back and we'll make the nose and we'll be done. Okay, I've got both eyes attached now and we're ready to do the nose. So you're going to do it between the eyes and you're going to make a triangle. So it's really up to you how big you want to make it. For the one that's in the picture, it's about 2 rows high and it looks like it's about, right at the bottom third of the eyes. So it's totally up to you how you want to make it. And, this is because you're going to make the triangle first, you can go back and look at it and see if you like it. So if it's looking not how you want it to look, I should probably start the other way so the tail's in the back, then you can go and adjust it and make it look just how you want. So I'm going to just try something to begin with and see how I like it. Might be a little different from how I did it the first time. Let's see, I want to kind of get it right in the center here. So I'm going to go into this actual stitch just a little bit here, which will help me anchor it. So I'm going to do my triangle first. Some more black here. Let's see how I like that. All right, is that big enough for me? Kind of small, actually. I think, even though I did 2, I might want to go a little bit bigger. Let's see. I don't know. I kind of like it. Well, what I can do also, once I make the first triangle, I can then make it even bigger without having to take everything out by just coming down and going right over what I did. So let's do that because we can always pull this out if we're not liking how it looks. Let's see how we like that. Yeah, I think I want it a little bit bigger, so I'm going to go with that. Then what you're going to do is you're just going to fill in the space with more long stitches. So you're just going to keep going into that center stitch. So you can either keep that outline and go right below it, or pull one of the yarns how I've got it going. But you're just going to go back and forth filling in that stitch. So I want it to be like a V and not just like straight across. So I'm going to kind of overlap them a little bit to get that look. I'm not sure if I like how this one strand is out, but I'm gonna stick with it for right now and see how I end up liking it at the end. It might be okay. I'm gonna talk about this strand right here. That's okay, actually. I want to get another strand up here because it's kind of missing right there. That's good. I think one more right here, right below that strand. I'm running out. Thankfully, wool sticks to itself, so it won't be hard to weave in. All right. I like it. Yes, that will work. So do what you like. Do a couple tries if you don't like the first one. It's easy to just yank it out and start over. So, but for me, I like that nose. I think that's going to be our nose. So let's go fill this guy up and take a look at the final product. And that is the owl basket. It is all complete. I actually added one more strip over there on top of the nose to give it 2 strands. I was just not quite digging the one strand, so you can do that as well with the other end of your yarn if you still have some left. But this is the pattern. I hope you guys liked it. I would love for you to share what you've made, so be sure to tag me on everything. All my links are below. I'm gonna be releasing all of my paid patterns for free like this. Eventually, it'll take me a while, but if there is one that you just can't wait for and you want me to push it to the beginning of the line, be sure to leave me a comment so that I can take that into consideration for when I make the next one. So be sure to hit the like, subscribe, share this if you know somebody else that would enjoy making this, and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out when I release my next free pattern. I am Deja with Knit and Crochet Ever After, and thank you for watching.